The UFC hits Mexico City this weekend with a flyweight bout between former champion Brandon Moreno, who is ranked number 2, looking to get back to that title. He takes on Steve Erceg, who was a surprise title contender last year. He is looking for his second shot at the title, number 8 right now. Hello, everybody. Brett Okamoto alongside Ian Parker. We are here to break down this card from a gambling aspect here on UFC Best Bets. And before we get into this card that starts at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific on ESPN2 and ESPN Plus, we will look back at how we did last week. Mr. Parker, how did we do on our best bets, our parlays, our props? What did we do at Edwards versus Brady over there in London?
Well, you know what? We were looking pretty good until my premium play was the kiss of death with Morgan Cherry losing to Nathaniel Wood. And Wood looked great doing it. We bounced back with Brady. Sean O'Bannon looked good in round 1, got dropped, came back and got the sub. Across the board, we did pretty well. Unfortunately, pretty well is not good enough because we still had a negative of 5 units because my premium play. Parker's parlay seems to be cursed as well. So this has got to be the week we turn it up because I want to walk into Miami sitting next to you after a winning week.
Yeah, that would be nice to go into Miami with a little bit of momentum, which we will get here down in Mexico City, and we'll start with this main event: Brandon Moreno against Steve Erceg. Brandon Moreno has been training in Mexico City. He is under the tutelage of the Fortis MMA coach, Saif Saad, who is, I think this is their 3rd fight together. Ian, Steve Erceg looking to bounce back after he lost to Kai Kara-France as a big favorite. He is the underdog here, plus 200 at altitude in Mexico City. What do you make of all the different elements coming together at 125 pounds in this main event?
Well, look, you know I've been big on Astro Boy for a while, and I thought he looked good against Pantoja until he made that ill-advised, takedown attempt, which really caused him to lose that fight. So he loses to Pantoja, then he gets knocked out by Kara-France, and now you're throwing him in a main event against a former champion Moreno in elevation, with Moreno coming off arguably one of his better performances against Amir Albazi. How do you not take Brandon Moreno here? Now that number's a little high for me to take the money line. I just don't feel comfortable going that way. So we're gonna mix it up here and add some rounds to it. But when you're looking at this fight, I don't see where Erceg wins unless he catches Moreno, and that, again, is a very odd circumstance, being that Moreno has got great durability, good cardio, very high fight IQ, and I think wherever this fight goes, this is Brandon Moreno's fight. Erceg said it himself. He is surprised he got this fight. He's surprised he's in another main event coming off the last 2 fights. I think this is a tough outing for Astro Boy.
Okay, so you're clearly leaning Brandon Moreno. So what is the play here as we look at this main event at 125 pounds? Your official pick for Moreno versus Erceg.
Yeah, look, this is going to be my premium play. I'm going to go with Brandon Moreno to win, and I'm going to go over 2.5 rounds. I don't think the elevation is going to take over, if it even does for Erceg, until later on in the fight. I think Moreno's going to do what he does best. He's going to throw combinations. He's going to push a pace. He's going to wear Erceg down. Erceg is going to probably attempt to wrestle. We have Moreno here, who also has very good guillotine. He could use that just to trap him to sweep and get on top. So I think at the pace and elevation, Moreno, if he were to finish, would be in the later rounds. But to get that number down to a much playable, more comfortable number, Brandon Moreno to win in over 2.5 rounds as my 5-unit play this week.
Okay, and clearly the betting public and the sharps going with you, because that line has moved in Brandon Moreno's favor as this fight gets a little closer there in Mexico City. Let's move to the co-main event, 155 pounds. We're talking about Manuel Torres and Drew Dober. This is a close one. Vegas has this very competitive. How do you see this one going down, Ian?
I mean, look, I understand why Vegas has it there. You have 2 guys that like to go for knockouts. The difference here is that Dober, 1, is more durable than Torres based on what we just saw out of Torres, and 2, Dober has fought the more higher level elite competition. He just fought Gene Silva, and we see how good Gene's been, and he didn't get knocked out. The doctor stopped it due to a really nasty cut, and Torres is still very young in his career. A lot of times when these guys get knocked out after essentially cruising and being really solid, feeling like they're untouchable, they either sink or swim here. I think this is a tough spot for him. Dober also has very underrated wrestling, good takedown defense. So unless Torres lands that big shot in round 1 that could do something that a lot of people really haven't been able to do, and that's knock Dober out, I feel like Dober gets the better of it here. I think technically he's the better boxer. He can also wrestle if he needs to shake it up. Cardio-wise, that goes in Dober's favor here. Give me Drew Dober to get the win.
I like that analysis, man. When you're talking about the spots, it is true. When these young guys get finished for the first time, you do kind of wonder how they're going to come back. And Drew Dober, he's lost 3 of his last 4. You can look at that as a bad thing, or you can look at it as he's been fighting some good competition and he needs a win here. He's looking for that win bonus down in Mexico City. Let's move to 185 pounds. Joe Pyfer taking on Kevin Gastelum. No surprise here. Pyfer, a pretty significant favorite at minus 310. How are you looking to play this one?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Joe Pyfer and over 1.5 rounds here. We know that Kelvin Gastelum is very durable, and Kelvin at 185, his cardio is not as bad as it gets at 170 when he gasses. We've also seen that when Kelvin really commits himself, he's still a good fighter. You know, he's someone who can close a distance here. I still think Pyfer is on the up and up. You know, the fight against Hermanson, I believe, humbled him. It showed him that he wasn't untouchable. He came back. He got the win here. Wouldn't surprise me if he tags Gastelum along the way, but I think if that happens, it's towards maybe round 3 when both guys start slowing down a bit and Pyfer can still carry that power here. I do believe in Joe Pyfer as still a very good fighter who can make his way to the top 7 in the near future. So let's go Pyfer to win over 1.5 rounds. Shrink that number down to a very playable number.
All right, yep, shrinking it down to minus 130. You got another play at the featherweight division, Christian Rodriguez, who is a favorite there in the featherweight division. What do you like here?
Look, I think it's about time we give C-Rod his respect. He's the prospect killer. He's got unbelievable cardio. A lot of the times he's losing round 1, comes back and wins round 2 and 3. He's getting a guy in Costa who was coming off a loss, fought Andre Fili, and Fili was winning and then put himself in a guillotine here. Costa also is known for gassing himself out, pressuring too much in round 1 here. And listen, this is one of the first times I think C-Rod has been the favorite at this number. This, to me, feels like a 3-round fight. This feels like a C-Rod decision. But I'm going again with the over 1.5 with Christian Rodriguez here, so we don't have to pay as much juice. So that's what I'm going to do. C-Rod over 1.5, gets by Costa, and keeps going up the ladder.
Yep, some wide odds here on this card down in Mexico City. So we got to take some methods. We're going with the over and C-Rod for minus 125 there. Our last best bet, we go back to the middleweight division. It's Gutier Ataba taking on Jose Daniel Medina. What do you like here at the middleweight?
Well, look, this is one of those fights where you got a guy in Gaudier coming off the Contender Series where he got a knockout in round 2 prior to his fights. It was all round 1 knockouts, but he's fighting someone. Again, this goes back to elevation here. He has, I don't believe, ever fought in elevation, and he's fighting someone in Medina who we have now seen. He's a human punching bag, but he doesn't go down. We saw it against Zach Reese. We saw it in the Contender Series. This guy's not going to win, but he's not going to get finished, and that's the most important thing here. I think it's going to go over 1.5, and Brett, I would not even be shocked to take Medina live if you see in round 1 towards the end of round 2 that Gaudier starts fading and Medina just puts it on him. Not saying that's exactly how it's going to go, just wouldn't shock me, but over 1.5 here. We're going with Medina's durability, and Gaudier is going to probably pace himself in elevation.
Hey, sometimes it's the obvious thing to talk about, but that altitude does play a part at Mexico City, and so you got to take that into account on those later rounds. And we're going with a lot of overs here. We're thinking the guys are going to be maybe pacing themselves and maybe wearing out towards the end of the fight, slowing down, not seeing the finishes there. We got one more prop to get to before we recap these best bets. Where are we going for the prop this week?
I'm going to go with Lazy Boy Rodriguez here. I think he gets the win, but we're going to go double method of victory. Once again, let's get these odds down from a minus 170 and change. I believe he's dropped from minus 170 to minus 155. We're getting almost close to even money here, a little bit, here and there. Depends on the book you use. We're going to go with Lazy Boy to win by either submission or decision. We've seen him get dropped in round 1, come back, winning the grappling, good cardio. He trains over there. I think he gets the win either one of those 2 ways, and we get paid.
All right, so you got your 5 best bets and you got your prop. Let's take a look at them there. We're looking for this exact same graphic next week. All of the green in the world. You got the Parker's premium play right there in the main event, minus 175. It's got to go over 2.5 rounds. We like Erceg's durability. Moreno wins it potentially later on in this fight, a decision, or if he does get it finished, it's going to be over 2.5 rounds. Pyfer keeps it going against Kelvin Gastelum. Drew Dober taking out the younger guy down there in Mexico City. A lot of good plays there for you, a lot of good stuff. And we're not done yet, because from there we go on to the parlays. We got a long shot parlay and we got a Parker's parlay. Let's do the long shot first. Where are we going down there in Mexico City?
We're going to go with 3 methods of victory. Let's go David Martinez to win by KO, TKO, or DQ, which rarely happens, right? Edgar Chairez by submission and Loopy by decision at -200. Look, we know when it comes to Loopy, those fights go all 3 rounds. That -200, I wish it was a little bit lower, but in this parlay, we're still getting really good odds.
And let's talk about Parker's parlay. I feel like it's been streaky. It's either hitting every single week or we can't buy a bucket at the rim. Let's get on a hot streak here. Where are we going for Parker's parlay?
Look, in the spirit of transparency, you couldn't be any more correct here. Last year it was the bread and butter. This year it's whatever the opposite of bread and butter is. But let's turn it around this week. I think all 3 of these guys get it done. I'm sorry, all 3 of these fights win. Martinez to win, Chairez to win. And we're going to go over 2.5 rounds between Rafa Garcia and Vince from Pichel. Pichel durable, good takedown defense. We know Garcia's a good wrestler and pushes a pace. I think that fight will go bell to bell. Let's get that +115 on Parker's parlay this week.
It is. It's crazy, man. You do not go alternate. You do not go win-loss, win-loss, win-win-win, loss, win. You either go string of losses, string of wins on that Parker parlay. I feel like it couldn't miss there at the end of last year. It's been a little slow coming into this year, but we are going to get back on it. We're going to start it right here at UFC Fight Night. Remember, 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. You can watch it on ESPN Plus and ESPN2. And we're making our way to the big pay-per-view in Miami. Can't wait for that. Enjoy the fights this weekend. We will see you next week. Take care.